we're doing a Film Fridays today, but it's about a TV show, not a film. The world is ending. I look outside, the bombs are falling. CADDY'S Film Fridays! Greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. Welcome back to CADDY'S Film Fridays, where we talk about films and films happen. But not today, because we're talking about a TV show today. Yeah, an old TV show. Well, relatively old anyway. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of films that everyone's raving about or everyone's shitting on, and I really wanted to see them, but I haven't got around to it. So yeah, I want to see La La Land, and I want to see Trainspotting 2 when that comes out. So there's loads of things on the pipeline, but there's nothing new right this second. So today I decided to spend a couple of minutes of your day talking about a show that Caddycarus and I have been binge watching a lot recently, and that show is Prison Break. Caddycarus and I are always looking for the next big binge fest TV show to watch through. We've done so many, and lots of them, like, I mean, there's a few actually, like The Walking Dead, where we got 3 episodes in and we gave up. I'm sorry to Walking Dead fans. It was well-made stuff, I'm not going to deny that, but it just was so uninteresting. It might get better as it goes on. You might tell me it's worth sticking through the first season, I'm not sure, but 3 episodes in wasn't doing it for either of us, so we scrapped that. But we do try as much as we can on Netflix and stuff, and Prison Break was one of those things which we decided to give a go with. And you know what? Really fucking enjoy it, honestly. No need to flee, this is spoiler-free. Okay, so the story of Prison Break, it's deceptively simple to begin with, but it gets a lot more complex as it goes on, like a lot more complex, which is not like I see in many TV shows. That even Breaking Bad, it gets deeper, but it doesn't get ridiculously more complex. But this does, and that's what I like about it. It's very deceptively simple to start with. So to give you the brief synopsis of season 1, at least, you have 2 brothers, Michael Scofield and Lincoln Burrows. Michael Scofield is a pretty cool dude, although he's very serious. And he's very good comic value, honestly, because he is just serious about everything, whether he's putting it on or not to look tough, or just not show emotion or anything. He always gets a laugh out of how serious he is and how he always talks like this when he's doing anything, and it's very funny. But the real comic relief is Lincoln Burrows, played by Dominic Purcell. My God, he is incredible. He is just the fucking definition of a meathead. Every other line, he says, "Shut up!" And every other action he does, like fucking Rain Man, you can see it coming a mile off. You can see him winding his fist up ready to deck someone in the side of the face. Also worth saying that Wentworth Miller plays Michael Scofield. Yeah, it does a good job. They both do a good job, but sometimes, like as you do when you start connecting and feeling attached with TV shows, you can start picking out all the things all the character traits which keep coming back over and over again. It just makes it very funny. So anyway, out of the 2 brothers, you have Lincoln. Now, Lincoln at the very beginning is basically put on death row for murdering the vice president's brother. Terrence Steadman, his name is. And then you have Michael, who just so happens to be an absolute goddamn genius, who also ended up designing and basically architecturing and building the prison that Lincoln is being kept in. Lincoln is convinced that he was framed, and Michael is also going to, he's got very strong family ties, that man, and he basically orchestrates the biggest fucking getting himself arrested and then getting him and his brother out of the same prison scenario you will ever see. It's one of the most fucking insane schemes. It's kind of like Sherlock. And even for that initial season, it pulls every single potential, like, high-octane, tension-building situation it can to make the initial breaking out of the prison, like, story absolutely thrilling. It always leaves you wondering what's going to happen next, and every episode ends on a cliffhanger, which is not only totally unforeseen, but always a fresh thing that pops up. It's never stale at any point. And once that initial breakout part is over, you've still got another 3 seasons to go, and it still manages to pull every trick it can at you constantly. And the good thing about it is that you end up uncovering a monstrous conspiracy that exceeds the FBI and government. And then more prisons and undercover infiltration missions are thrown in, and all of this is going on while you're following all of the characters when you'll never ever know when they need to stop running, not only from the law, but also this secretive and lucrative organization that's above the law. The conspiracy stuff, in my opinion, is actually really well done, and it always keeps you guessing on what's gonna happen next, and which bad guy, I suppose, is gonna be even bigger and badder than the last bad guy. You never have a 100% idea who's behind absolutely anything, and you constantly have characters that you thought you liked before who will then betray you, and, well, the characters in the stories will betray you, your trust in them, and all the backstabbings going on within the bigger picture of the story is what keeps you on the edge of your seat through those seasons. Especially considering you have loads of really balanced and well-placed character deaths, and loads of loved ones and family members that are dragged into this whole mess and constantly at risk. And like I said, can't stress enough, you really have no idea where it's going to go at all. It became a running gag for me and Keris to say literally at the end of every ad break within the show that you're watching, we'd always just go, oh my god, how's Michael Scofield gonna get out of this one? It literally is like that, even after every ad break, not even after the cliffhangers at the end of every episode, every ad break in there, something goes wrong. It's amazing how many ideas they come up with. There's just so many well thought out scenarios with the season 1 prison breakage that the title of the show is all about. And it's great to see how it still keeps up with that level of consistent deepening with the plot. Which then made me realise how slickly paced the whole show is. And the pacing is extremely well done. Editing is very quick and it matches the tone that the show is going for. And the action scenes, whenever there are action scenes, are very, very well choreographed. And when I say action scenes, I don't even mean like explosions and martial arts. There's minimum of that in this show, honestly. But I mean just things happening, things being worked out, operations being worked on, things going on which other characters aren't supposed to know about, and everyone's on the edge of being caught and everything with whatever they're supposed to be doing. It never fails to be tense and exciting with all of the different nail-biting moments it throws at you. And the Game of Thrones composer that's coming in to do all the soundtrack, yeah, okay, there's a lot of overplay, there's music pretty much everywhere, so there's a little bit of minimum quiet time, I suppose, but he brings the whole tone and the pace of the show together really well. It knows exactly when to throw you a curveball, when to introduce new characters without being too in your face, when to kill characters off, and even when to make you question your likability and everything towards characters that you initially loved, or even characters you initially hated before. Your opinions and everything are always shifting, character motivations are always changing, and then so does your perspective on those characters. All of whom are very solidly acted to a point of making every character very memorable, even if one or two of them are a little bit one track, like, bless him, Lincoln. And some characters like Mahone in the show, I'm not going to go into any depth, but Mahone, who ends up basically being manipulated and exploited by every single person around him ever, I found some of his more emotional scenes very deep and very thought-provoking, and actually really, yeah, just really well done stuff. You can see the torture. It's really well done. And yes, you get characters like Lincoln, who, bless him, oh bless him. I mean, he's very one-dimensional and unchanging from beginning to end. He doesn't really seem to learn anything or change his approach to anything, but it is still very fun to see other characters develop and change as the show goes on, especially Michael, who just from his determination to save his family, who I'm sure loads of other people would agree is a very noble cause, might end up actually be unintentionally making the entire state of the world worse, and he ends up unintentionally killing so many different people, which because of his past, he might not be able to even handle. The motivation is there, but can these characters handle the consequences of that? And I found it very cool how there are definitely disgusting and sick people, like, I don't know, see Teabag, who basically stick around as soon as they're introduced like a bad smell and never seem to fucking go away. And they always end up getting roped in and involved no matter how many times they try to get rid of these characters, and they always come in to make the whole thing way more stressful and way more complicated than it needs to be. And it makes it very, very heart-racingly horrible sometimes. But despite all those disgusting and sick people being around, it's never a very concrete good versus bad scenario. Yes, you do have the inexcusable acts and deeds of all these disgusting and horrible characters like Teabag, and his name is Teabag. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's a horrible name, but even saying that, there's constant strings being pulled by all these different people, and there's different authority levels and higher levels of power and more dastardly awful things going on above everything. And all you can do is sit back and watch Michael Scofield and his misfit renegades get through it. Especially Lincoln, who just goes around, like, punching everything. And then once the big head of this entire company conspiracy thing is then revealed, he becomes an extremely threatening and foreboding ever-present force, and I always found him very magnetic whenever he was on screen, honestly. I will say though, it's structurally wonky and a little bit haphazardly stitched together as a show. Episodes do end with decent cliffhangers, but half of them end in the middle of really engaging plots. They just seem to kind of cut whenever the fuck they want to end. And it really, I know it makes it good for you to come back to the next episode, but at the moment, it really fucking sucks you out if you have to stop watching for whatever reason. The episodes themselves never really start and then have a middle and then end. They're not separate stories. It's basically just cut up bits of a bigger story, which is what most shows do, don't get me wrong. I mean, see Breaking Bad, for instance, but at least with Breaking Bad, you have beginnings, middles, and ends, and resolutions and conflicts and everything. Every episode individually has its own point, like, apart from the ones that are two-parters or stuff, if you know what I mean. And there are also far too many flashbacks, like a hilarious amount of flashbacks. Sometimes they're useful, and sometimes they can remind you of very important information that's relevant to the scene from, like, I don't know, a couple of episodes ago or even a couple of seasons ago. But most of the time, they are just filler bullshit that remind you which characters love each other and which characters don't like each other and why they don't like each other, and that because of that there are loads of tense conflicts and situations between particular characters, or even romantic, let's say, situations between characters, which are never left to simmer or be their own thing because it's constantly interrupted by fucking flashbacks of similar scenes that are going on that you're watching right now. Like, you'll see two characters talk about how much they love each other, and then there'll be a flashback of them having sex 2 fucking seasons ago. You know, it treats you like an idiot sometimes. And again, it becomes a running gag out of the annoyance though, not because of the attachment that we have to the show and what we notice. It's thrown and screaming at your face a lot, and they become a fucking joke within themselves. I gotta say as well, it's not the prettiest show ever. Like, I mean, it's not like the prettiest shot thing or anything. I mean, it works, it absolutely works, and it works within its own grounded reality and everything, but there's no immediate shots or like environments or like even panning shots or even establishing shots which really stuck out. It's all very buildings, grey, and buildings and grey. But you know, that's fine. It's the kind of show that it is, but it's just worth saying it is not one of the absolute most gorgeous shows to watch. And I've got to say, despite the actual plot of the show and the stories and everything being extremely well constructed and branching off onto so many different levels and making you really fucking give you a head fuck, that didn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. For as well as those stuff, like those things are combined together and everything, the writing of some of the script isn't that good. For the most part, and I'm stressing for the most part, it's fine. It really is fine. Nothing spectacular, but it gets the job done. But you have the occasional bit where a character that is never usually funny or never usually shows off a sense of humour tries to be genuinely funny with another character. It comes out of nowhere and it comes off as fucking cringy. And there's a few times where the writers, especially in season 1, they tried their hardest to sound witty, if that makes sense, but it just ends up like falling flat on its face, and it ends up being just unintentionally hilarious. And unlike something like House, where all of the witty banter and dialogue between House and his staff is actually fucking fantastic, and yeah, it's really clever writing and very well written, and it's funny, but it's also not funny because of the kind of person that House is at the same time. It's like shocking, but it's really clever and funny in how it's written. But here, there's so many grounded and realistic scenarios which don't warrant that kind of writing. And then when they try to do that kind of writing, it comes off as desperate. There's a scene which I'll never forget near the beginning of the season, of the whole show. The warden of the prison that Michael and Lincoln are in is talking to Michael about him helping out with building, because he's a structural engineer, obviously. The warden wants him to help build a Taj Mahal statue out of, I can't remember what it is, like wood or something? I can't remember. But he wants him to build this model, and he's taking a bit of time with it because he's trying to work out the braking and everything. So he's taking a bit of time with it, so the warden's telling him to hurry up, and instead of just telling him to hurry up, he decides to go on this fucking massive pointless ramble about, like, he says something like, oh, did you know that at different times of the day, the Taj Mahal looks completely different colours? In the sunrise, it turns blue, and then in the midday, it turns orange, and then in the sunset, it turns a deep green. That's very pretty how the Taj Mahal makes those colours, but I don't know what colour my wife will turn if you don't get this Taj Mahal done for her in time. And it's like, but he plays it so seriously because it's a grounded and realistic situation that doesn't warrant that kind of writing. And it comes off so funny. It's just, yeah, like I said, that's not even that well written anyway, so it tries to do that in a few times, especially in season 1, it falls flat on its face, and it not only doesn't match, but it's not too clever either. Overall though, I can say on the recommendation scale that Prison Break is a low-end highly recommend. When I say low-end, I mean I was verging between recommend it and highly recommend it, but I'm going on highly recommend it because I really am enjoying it that much. Because for all of its problems, I think it's definitely worth watching. It's a proper binge fest TV show and extremely addicting, extremely addicting. And I really found myself appreciating all of the edge of your seat schemes and all of the different character interactions and how they're going to get out of situations, how they're going to deal with each other. I found it enough of a driving force to carry on because I really had no idea where it was going and I wanted to see some kind of satisfying conclusion. I will admit at this point we haven't finished season 4 yet. There are 4 seasons and a final feature-length episode. We're halfway through season 4, so my mind could completely change if there's no proper satisfying end to the whole thing, but it does a very good job at keeping you gripped for what it is. It sounds very cliched, but the what's gonna happen next like gimmick it goes with is so well done, I can't even fault it for that. And then you add the awesome, deeper political conspiracy that then goes above politics and above government and above FBI, and it's like, it ends up being kind of frightening, and I think that all of that stuff makes it that much more complex and that much more engaging and interesting, and yeah, I do recommend that if you are thinking about giving it a try, give it a try. You might really enjoy it. Farewell everybody, and until next time, take care.